By the time the afternoon shadows began to stretch across the walls, the castle had transformed. It was as though a storm of silver and gold had raged through the corridors, every brick surrendering to the solemn cause. Garlands looped between chandeliers, shimmering with snowflakes that never melted. Tinsel spiraled around every column, catching the light from floating candles and flickering torches. Even the portraits had been adorned, some begrudgingly, with tiny wreaths or enchanted bells that chimed whenever someone walked past. The suits of armor wore festive sashes, some of them humming off-key carols. Everyone was exhaling. Anne and I had changed after lunch, following Professor Weasley's announcement that, in the spirit of festivities, students were allowed to wear casual clothing. I'd been excited about it at first. I'd missed my soft, hand-knitted muggle sweaters, but my mind felt blank, emptied of lessons and problems and answers. My uniform might have spared me the anguish of choice. I'd stared at my trunk for minutes and more. It had taken even longer, though, to talk Anne out of showing up to dance practice in our ball gowns. Why spoil the surprise, was the final, winning argument. Still, Anne had launched a full campaign to make Poppy and me presentable, picking out dresses that were flattering, danceable, and, most importantly, somewhat comfortable. Poppy had sighed in relief when she'd twirled in hers. It was mint green, with short sleeves and a puffy petticoat that stopped at her knees. Mine was a pale blue, so soft it was nearly translucent, speckled with rhinestones up to the collar that closed gently around my neck. The fabric whispered over my skin, silky and weightless, like the water in the prefect's bath. My stomach had lurched at the memory, guilt stinging as I'd watched Poppy pay for her dress. She'd be so pretty in it, and Sebastian would see her. He would look at her, like he had looked at me that night, when I'd felt silk against my arms, when my hands had rested on his bare chest and felt his heart pounding against my palms.
Did you know that, by the way? That when you get excited, your whole face shines like a damn sunbeam.
Ominous wouldn't see any of it. The pearly gloves, the neckline that seemed a bit too committed to showing off my collarbones, the matching blue shimmer at the tips of my hair. He wouldn't see the flush on my cheeks. No rhinestones, no sunbeams. Sometimes it struck me, in quiet moments, whenever my heart forgot that love wasn't visual. Ominous had given me space in his world, let me into his way of sensing things, of listening, of knowing.
You're the first one I've shown.
His words echoed in my chest, prickled along my skin. They returned with every casual brush of his fingers, every time he said my name. My thoughts were still wrapped in the memory of his touch when I spotted Poppy standing where we'd agreed to meet.
"Oh, look at you!"
She delighted, her eyes lighting up at my sweater.
"Is that a niffler? It's so cute!"
I lowered my head with a laugh, catching the upside-down image of my rather pitiful embroidery. "It was made during my proudest phase," I said, then paused, watching as Poppy adjusted a strand of hair and secured it with a shiny bow-shaped clip. I blinked. "You dressed up for this, didn't you?" It was true. Poppy wore a sun-coloured blouse with glossy white buttons, tucked into a brown checked skirt that revealed more leg than any school uniform. Her hair was tidy, hay-free, and braided into a loose crown. The Poppy I knew didn't tame her hair. She let it fall into Kneazle Chow and let the kittens chew on it. She kept breadcrumbs in her pockets and always had a little bit of dirt on her nose. And yet, she was effortlessly adorable. But now, she looked transformed.
"Do I look weird?"
she asked, smoothing her sleeves nervously under my gaze. I shook my head fast. "No, not at all," I said. "You look amazing." Then a smile. "Just different, but beautiful. You're always beautiful." Poppy's face turned a brilliant shade of red, but her smile widened and her posture lifted. We made our way to the Transfiguration courtyard, passing clusters of students dressed in every colour imaginable, shades that had nothing to do with house pride and everything to do with freedom. "It'll be fine," I said as we reached the fountain. "You don't have to put pressure on yourself, not with Sebastian." Poppy turned her head to respond, but fell silent. Her gaze caught on a stone pillar just ahead. Sebastian leaned against it like he was posing for a portrait. The breeze ruffled his hair, just enough to make it seem planned. He'd picked a grey shirt and kept his tie, which was tucked between two open buttons that exposed his lower neck. His sleeves were rolled to the elbow, revealing freckled arms and the lines of muscle he never showed off. Well, except now. I let out a quiet laugh. He really did know how to make an entrance.
Poppy, Nina, good to see you.
He greeted with a grin that should have been illegal.
Hey,
Poppy managed, her smile weak, her eyes screaming for rescue. She kept her chin low, gaze locked on Sebastian's arms as they slowly uncoiled, his hands vanishing into his pockets. Sebastian shot me a look from the corner of his eye, as though waiting for instructions. The moment passed too quickly.
Shall we?
He said, cocking his head toward the end of the corridor. The doors to the Transfiguration classroom stood open, warm light spilling into the courtyard. Pairs of students strode past us, drawn like moths to a flame, some dressed like royalty. I frowned down at my Niffler sweater as we joined the flow, Anne's voice echoing in my head.
I told you so.
You look nice.
My head snapped towards Sebastian. A flicker of hope extinguished the moment I realized he wasn't talking to me. Poppy's whispered reply was lost beneath the rising hum of voices as we entered. I slowed, dragging out my last few steps until I hovered on the threshold. There was no point in double-checking. He wasn't there. I waited, heart hammering, one foot in the doorway like an unclaimed parcel. Behind me, the corridor fell quiet as more students trickled in, loud and jaunty. Chatter filled the room.
Inside, please!
Professor Weasley called, cheerful but brisk. She stood at the front, hands clasped with the kind of expectant patience that only came from decades of experience with unruly students. I didn't move, casting one last look over my shoulder.
Miss Carve, would you please close the door?
A groan slipped from my mouth. Don't be late, my arse. Inside, the desks had vanished, replaced by a shimmering parquet floor. I stepped in slowly, relieved when Professor Weasley drew everyone's attention back to the front, to herself and the wiry old woman standing beside her.
First of all, congratulations to all the fifth years who completed their midterm exams this morning,
she announced, her smile drifting in a slow arc across the room until it landed on me.
Well done.
I blinked down at my feet.
The Yule Ball is now only 2 days away, and it warms my heart to see...
A hush rippled through the room. Every head turned as the door swung open. He brought a cold wind with him, a shift in the air. I almost gasped. Ominous stood in the doorway, wind-tousled and effortlessly elegant, the way he always was without meaning to be. Snowflakes clung to his black coat, his hair, his cheeks, the crisp winter air clawing at his skin. He looked like he'd stepped out of a dramatic novel.
Mr. Gaunt,
Professor Weasley said, raising a brow.
You're late.
I'm punctual,
He corrected gently, stepping forward with easy grace.
just not early.
She gave him a warning glance, then cleared her throat.
As I was saying before I was interrupted,
Her eyes tracked him with a frown as he crossed the room.
it warms my heart to see that many of you have found companionship beyond your own house.
Her gaze flicked to Poppy and Sebastian. They exchanged a fleeting smile. I stiffened. Ominous reached me with quiet certainty, stopping just close enough for me to feel the heat of his presence. He leaned down, his snow-dusted hair brushing mine.
Sorry I'm late. I'm a hypocrite.
His voice curled around my ear, warm with amusement, his breath lingering dangerously close to my neck. I waited for him to lean back, to put distance between us. My skin flushed hot with longing. He didn't move. I turned. A crease formed between his brows. It wasn't until I flinched at the chill of his fingers that I realized he was worried. I hushed a laugh. "You're punctual," I whispered, sliding my fingers against his. "Just not early." The smile he gave me was a silent roar of delight. I could have died then and there.
Assisting me today is Madame Drizella Tweak,
Professor Weasley said, slicing through the moment with crisp authority.
one of our finest governesses, well versed in the rules of ballroom etiquette. With her guidance, you'll be gliding across the parquet in no time.
Madame Tweak lifted her chin, surveying us through narrowed eyes. She was taller than any of us, draped in midnight blue robes embroidered with silver stars and moons. Her hair was stacked high in icy grey curls, one sleek strand pressed flat against her forehead. She looked like someone who'd turn a ballroom into a boot camp.
"I do not tolerate slouching,
She declared without preamble.
nor tardiness, nor food of any sort. And Merlin help me, no excessive snogging in the corners.
Her gaze skimmed across the room like a hawk.
Yes, I see you.
She clapped twice. Some of us winced.
Couples, now!
I didn't move. He was there.